I'll be there very soon. Just make sure everything is ready. Forget about them, I am leaving now.
The morning I lost everything, the city looked brighter than it ever had. Sunlight poured through the glass walls of the tallest office tower downtown, while my entire world quietly collapsed inside it. My own wife, the woman I had loved for 10 years and helped build an empire beside, stared at me with cold eyes before handing me a termination letter. Minutes later, divorce papers followed. The employees I had trained avoided looking at me. The executives I had once promoted stood silently behind her, as if I had never mattered. I walked out carrying nothing but a small cardboard box filled with family photos, an old notebook, and a coffee mug that read, "Dream big." They thought they had erased me forever. They had no idea that before sunset, I would calmly look at my assistant and say the words that would change every one of their lives forever. Fire every one of them. If you believe kindness, loyalty, and second chances still matter in this world, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Echo. Your support helps these stories reach people who need them the most. My name was Adrian Mercer, and people believed I had been living the perfect life. My wife, Vanessa Hale, was the celebrated CEO of Hale Dynamics, one of the fastest-growing technology companies in the country. Magazine covers praised her brilliance. Television interviews called her a fearless leader. Investors admired her confidence. What very few people knew was that before there were luxury offices, private jets, and billion-dollar contracts, there was a tiny rented warehouse where the lights barely stayed on. I had spent years working 18-hour days, writing business plans, negotiating impossible deals, repairing broken equipment, comforting discouraged employees, and sacrificing every personal dream I had so that our company could survive. I never asked for recognition because I believed we were building something together. Every victory felt like ours. Every setback belonged to both of us. I truly believe that marriage meant sharing both the storms and the sunshine. Success, however, has a strange way of changing people. As the company grew larger, Vanessa became someone I barely recognized. She surrounded herself with executives who praised every decision she made. She slowly replaced honesty with ambition and loyalty with appearances. Board meetings became more important than family dinners. Public image became more valuable than private promises. Whenever I questioned a risky decision or reminded her about the values that built the company, she dismissed my concerns with a smile that no longer carried warmth. She insisted that emotions had no place in business. I told myself she was simply under pressure, but deep inside I knew something precious was slipping away. The distance between us became impossible to ignore. We no longer laughed together. Our conversations felt like corporate meetings. Every success seemed to make her trust me less instead of more. Rumors started spreading through the company that I was no longer involved in important decisions. Invitations to leadership meetings quietly stopped arriving. Employees who once sought my advice suddenly looked nervous whenever I approached them. I could feel invisible walls rising around me, but I never imagined how carefully everything had been planned. That unforgettable morning, Vanessa called for an emergency executive meeting. I assumed it involved another expansion project. Instead, every board member was already seated when I entered the conference room. My name appeared on a presentation slide titled Organizational Restructuring. My stomach tightened. The company's legal advisor calmly explained that my role had become unnecessary. Human Resources placed an envelope in front of me. My employment had been terminated effective immediately. Before I could even process those words, another envelope slid across the polished table. Divorce papers waited inside. Around me, no one spoke. No one defended me. Years of sacrifice disappeared in complete silence. I left the building under the warm afternoon sun, refusing to let anyone see me cry. Every step away from that tower felt heavier than the last. Reporters gathered near the entrance after hearing rumors of executive changes, but I lowered my head and kept walking. The city moved around me as if nothing had happened. Cars passed. Children laughed in a nearby park. Office workers hurried to lunch. Life continued while mine seemed to have ended. I spent the next several hours sitting alone on a quiet bench overlooking the river. For the first time in many years, I allowed myself to think instead of react. Anger slowly gave way to clarity. I remembered every engineer I had personally recruited, every struggling employee whose family I had quietly helped during difficult times, every small business owner we had supported before becoming successful. None of those memories belonged to Vanessa alone. They belonged to everyone who believed kindness could exist alongside ambition. Just as the sun began lowering across the skyline, my phone rang. It was Nora Sinclair, my longtime executive assistant. She had worked beside me for nearly 8 years. Her voice trembled as she explained that several employees had been dismissed after defending me during the meeting. She apologized repeatedly even though she had done nothing wrong. Then she quietly revealed something I had almost forgotten. Years earlier, I had created another holding company for future expansion projects. Because of complicated legal and financial structures established during the company's early years, I still remained the majority owner of the parent investment group that controlled several key subsidiaries. Vanessa had become CEO, but ownership was a completely different matter. A calmness settled over me unlike anything I had ever experienced. Revenge no longer interested me. Justice did. I asked Nora to gather every legal document, every employment record, and every financial report. She worked through the afternoon with complete determination. When she finally arrived carrying several organized folders, she looked exhausted but hopeful. I studied the paperwork carefully before looking up with complete confidence. The words left my mouth without anger or hesitation. Fire every one of them. Nora understood exactly what I meant. Every executive who had betrayed the company's founding principles, every manager involved in unethical decisions, every board member who had approved dishonest practices despite knowing the truth would be removed according to company policy and legal authority. It was not personal revenge. It was accountability. The following morning, the corporate headquarters buzzed with confusion. Emergency emails flooded executive inboxes. Security badges stopped working. Lawyers reviewed ownership agreements that no one had examined in years. Investors demanded explanations after learning the true corporate structure. Within hours, those who believed power belonged only to titles discovered that integrity carries far greater authority than position. Many employees feared massive layoffs, but something entirely unexpected happened. Every hardworking employee who had remained honest kept their job. Those who had been unfairly dismissed received calls inviting them back with improved contracts and public apologies. Salaries were adjusted fairly. Departments focused once again on innovation instead of office politics. The atmosphere inside the building changed almost overnight. Fear slowly disappeared. Hope quietly returned. Vanessa was stunned. She had assumed complete control belonged to her forever. When she finally realized the legal reality, the confidence she had displayed for months vanished. News outlets quickly reported the dramatic leadership reversal, but the headlines failed to capture the real story. They described corporate conflict while ignoring the years of loyalty, sacrifice, and kindness that had made everything possible. Several weeks later, Vanessa requested a private meeting. We met in a peaceful botanical garden on a beautiful sunny afternoon. She looked tired, older than I remembered, as though success had slowly stolen pieces of her soul. She admitted that ambition had blinded her. She confessed that surrounding herself with people who praised her every decision made her forget who had stood beside her when nothing existed except impossible dreams. She apologized sincerely, But some wounds cannot be erased simply because regret arrives. I listened without bitterness. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not always the same thing. I chose to forgive because carrying hatred would only imprison my own heart. But I also understood that trust, once shattered, cannot be rebuilt overnight. We quietly signed the final divorce documents with mutual respect, knowing our journey together had reached its natural ending. Over the following year, Hale Dynamics transformed into a company known not only for financial success but also for compassion. Employee wellness programs expanded. Scholarships were created for students from struggling families. Emergency assistance funds helped workers facing personal hardships. Volunteer projects became part of company culture. Investors were surprised to discover that treating people with dignity actually strengthened long-term success instead of weakening it. As for me, I no longer chased recognition. I spent more time mentoring young entrepreneurs who believed kindness and business could exist together. I reminded them that leadership is not measured by the size of an office or the title printed on a business card. Real leadership is revealed by how people feel after working with you. Fear creates obedience. Kindness creates loyalty. One afternoon, while visiting one of our scholarship programs, I watched a young student proudly explain how she wanted to become an engineer because someone had believed in her when no one else did. Her words reminded me why every painful moment had been worth surviving. Losing my position had helped me discover my true purpose. Sometimes life removes what feels comfortable, so something far greater can finally begin. If this story touched your heart or reminded you that kindness is never weakness, please like this video, share it with your friends and family, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Kindness Echoes so together we can spread more stories that inspire hope and compassion.